Hey guys, it's TechBoy here with another video with a new series of videos that I am starting to come out with. The image from the previous video I had was a picture of a soft drink can with a question mark on it, and basically the answer to that was how can the how trying to be represented by the question mark. I couldn't think of any other way to represent it, and a can as in a soft drink can. So really the series of videos is how can a certain person, a certain company, any other thing related to technology go about doing such a thing. So this video is based on how can Apple go about releasing multiple screen sized iPhones, because people like 4 inches, people like them slightly bigger, people like them almost 5 inches, people like them as big as a phablet. How would Apple go about doing this? So I thought I'd just talk about a few areas in which Apple would have to consider before going ahead and actually releasing all of these various screen-sized iPhones. The first area to talk about is the screen sizes themselves. The 3.5 inches for the iPhone all the way up to the iPhone 4S. It was a 4-inch screen on the iPhone 5, potentially on the iPhone 5S if it keeps the same design as the iPhone 5. But what sizes would they choose? Would they choose a 4-inch size and maintain it as they have with the iPhone 5? Would they go to 4.3 inches like the Samsung Galaxy S2? 4.5 inches like the Nokia Lumia 920? 4.8 inches like the Samsung Galaxy S3? Or even 5 inches like the latest Samsung Galaxy S4? Or would they go even larger? I mean, if they did that, it would be marketed as a phablet. But if they go down that route, that could potentially lead to a loss in sales of iPhones and iPads, because it just falls under the category for both. But then again, how many people actually buy phablets? That's the question. If there's a big enough market for it, then yes, Apple should be going for it. But is there a big enough market for it? No one really knows. The next area I wanted to talk about was the screen resolutions, because Apple's all about the Retina displays, and if they were to maintain the Retina display on bigger screen devices, how would they go about resolutions in terms of developers with applications and all that? 480 by 320 resulted in 163 pixels per inch on the 3.5 inch screen on the iPhone original to the iPhone 3GS. Then they doubled the resolution to 960 by 640 to make it a Retina display of 326 pixels per inch, which it had to be around the 300 area to be able to be more dense than what the eye can distinguish the pixels apart on a 3.5 inch screen on the iPhone 4 and 4S. Then it went to 1136 by 640, so the same width but taller. So they just put in enough pixels as they needed to maintain the same pixels per inch, the same density of the screen, but to be compatible with a bigger screen on the iPhone 5 with a 4-inch screen, potentially the same for the iPhone 5S. But how would they maintain a Retina display on a larger screen while minimizing the amount of fragmentation for developers? Would they just make it taller altogether, but that would wreck the 16:9 aspect ratio and you get something way more out of proportion? And how would they fix the resolution? The iPhone, if it came out with a 4.5 inch screen, they could maintain it at the original 1136 by 640 pixels, which would result in 290 pixels per inch, which is just about 300, which would still maintain a Retina display. It's slightly less sharp than the iPhone 5, but it's still just about a Retina display quality. For a 5-inch model, they could just double the resolution from the iPhone 5 to make it 2272 by 1280, which would result in 522 pixels per inch, which is at least 50 points higher than devices like the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the HTC One. So it would have the same treatment as the Retina display was when it was introduced, going from the 3GS to the 4S, would be how it would work for the 5S to the 6 or something like that. And you'd be able to watch full HD 1080p videos pixel for pixel on the screen, but there'd be black bars around it unless you want to zoom into the video clearly so there's no black bars. But either way, it is possible. And it would be a better competitor with other 1080p devices such as the Samsung Galaxy S4 with a 5-inch screen which has 440 pixels per inch. Because it has a higher resolution but the same size, that results in 82 pixels per inch more than the other. And if they did a 5.5-inch device, which is like a phablet, for example, because it's really such a huge screen, they should do the same treatment as they would for the 5-inch screen as I just mentioned, which would result in 474 pixels per inch, which I believe is the same as the HTC's One's display, and it'd be a better competitor with the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 with a 720p display of 267 pixels per inch. Presumably, Samsung will update their Galaxy Note 3 with a 1080p display, but until then, I'm just basing this on everything that's been announced to date. The third thing I'd want to talk about is the demand for each size. So really, let's just get to the facts. The majority of people demanded a 4-inch screen for the iPhone 5 because everyone was disappointed when the iPhone 4S, which was rumoured to be the iPhone 5, did not have it. So everyone was glad when that came out, which potentially led to why a lot of people upgraded their device because it was the first screen size change since the original iPhone. The Samsung Galaxy Note 2 with a 5.5-inch screen, which is really phablet, has sold 5 million units in 2 months. iPhones on launch days do this in 1 day. So is there really demand for it? Personally, I don't think there really is, because if there were, people would be buying more of the Samsung Galaxy Note 2, but obviously not. Lots of comments on the internet say something like, I'm never going to consider Apple until they make a larger display. So hopefully if they make a larger display, it would make more customers happy. More people would be inclined to buy future devices. Samsung Galaxy S4, which is a 5-inch screen, has sold 10 million units in half the time it took to sell the same number of Galaxy S3 units, which was a 4.8-inch screen. That's 10 million in 27 days for the S4, compared to 10 million over 50 days for the Samsung Galaxy S3. Nokia sold 4.4 million off the Nokia Lumia 920, which is a 4.5-inch screen, which is more, or just about as many as the Samsung Galaxy Note 2. In my opinion, how would they go about this? I personally think they should not go beyond 5 inches if they were to go down this route. If they are going to have multiple models, it would be 4 inches, 4.5, and 5 inches. Anything in between any of those 3 numbers would just be awkward and all that. I personally think they like to round off the numbers to a whole half an inch distinguishable in sizes. And the fourth thing I want to talk about is the price differences, because how are they going to market differently from every other device? Should you have to pay more if you want a 5-inch screen as opposed to a 4-inch screen? How would they make it the same? Or would they make it the same prices? But then again, would everyone just buy the 5-inch model and not the 4-inch one? There's got to be a way to distinguish them. So I asked myself, there's no point making a video on this topic without making assumptions as to how they would go about doing the prices. So this is what I came up with. This is all assuming it's going to happen for the iPhone 6. There will be 4-inch, 4.5-inch, and 5-inch. 5.5-inch was really just an addition on the end. But if you just look at the left column, it'd go from $1,632, $6,428. You go $9.99, then $100 for each added onto that. And then for every screen size from each of those base storage models for the 4-inch size, it's $30 extra, which result in 5.5-inch for $189, or you pay $10 more and you get double the storage, but you go back to 4 inches. So it only seems fair. All prices there are with a 2-year contract. Unlocked models in Australia would be adding on $600 to all the prices that are in that table at the moment. Starting the 16GB at $999 instead of $199 like the iPhone 5S. Then $30 for the next screen size up. If there's no 5.5-inch model, they could go with $40 extra screen sizes. So, for example, the 64GB iPhone 6 with a 5-inch screen would be $379 on contract. But what models would be in Apple retail stores, and what will there be during the initial rush? Is it going to be just the 4-inch models? Will there be an even number of each? Would there be more of the 32GB models of all the various screen sizes? My opinion, for the initial rush, it'll be all the 4-inch models and 32GB models for each other screen size, with an even number of each. But you could order any device that they would have off their Apple online retail store, because they would have a warehouse that stores all of these models. It's just a matter of picking it up and shipping it. It's simple as that, so they don't have to ship so many to each of their stores. So I hope you enjoyed that first episode of How Can, and I appreciate everybody watching. If you really enjoyed this, please do give it a like, and I'll be sure to make more videos with a similar topic in the future. The question for you, the audience, for this episode is, what is your most ideal screen size, and do you prefer single-handed use operations? So do you prefer a smaller screen like 4 inches because of single-handed use, or do you prefer 5-inch screens because you just want bigger screens and you're not a fan of single-handed use? So you can let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and if you really enjoyed this episode, please do give it a like. I really appreciate it. And if you choose to subscribe to my channel, I'm not going to force anyone into subscribing, but if you do, it is greatly appreciated. It really means a lot. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will catch you later.